Hello, legends. So, podcast today is going to be fascinating. Timmo was heralded in the media as Tim the Cannibal for drinking the blood of his ISIS enemies in Syria. I'm sure he's going to enlighten us to whether that's true or not. What I wanted to say is this is very serious chat, folks. This is not for youngsters, children. If you're of a faint heart or whatever the right expression is, give this one a swerve. We're going to be talking about some serious stuff. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Chris.
Timmo, how are you, sir?
Come, sir, I work for a living.
Can you hear me all right then?
I can hear you okay.
Good. Okay. So, Timmo, you first got hold of me right back when I almost at the beginning of my podcast, and you were out in Syria fighting with a Peshmerga. You've recently been in Ukraine.
No. In Syria, I was with YPG.
Okay.
YPG. And then I went to Iraq and I joined Peshmerga.
Right. Okay. And we've been in contact through email on and off. Never managed to get you on the show. Of course, this headline. Let's just start with this. This headline came up, didn't it? They nicknamed me Tim the Cannibal. I got to be careful what I say here, Timmo, because we don't want to get in trouble with YouTube. But that was the headline. What was the? Where did all that come from?
Well, I've been asked not to talk about that by someone very important person. He's asked me not to talk about that, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Out of respect, you know.
Yeah, well, of course. It's bit odd not to ask you it, though, when your nickname's Tim the Cannibal, isn't it? It's a bit like people asking me what's my surname mean, and me saying I ain't telling you.
You look at Bear Grylls, yeah?
If I have to.
Boy, maybe if you made one World War One film and it's like a dream and Bear Grylls is in it, you know? And he's a good guy like Bear Grylls, you know? And he's fainting on the World War One battlefield, you know? The guy, he ain't got the strength, you know? And then he become like Bear the Cannibal, you know? Blood. There you go. It's just like that, man. Oh, it's nobody bad, you know. It's just I could be any nationality. I could be Turkish, you know. I could be Russian. I could be Ukrainian, French, Israeli, Jordanian, Palestinian, man. You know. I'm not some English white devil, you know. I'm nobody bad.
Sure. So was that what you're saying? Is that was an unfair nickname to give you? Then was it? All right, let's take it.
Have you read the art?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a bit of time reading this Daily Mail article.
That well, you know, it's Ramadan. Now it's Ramadan. Yeah? Person ain't supposed to eat anything. You know? Just imagine some jihadi in a future jihad, right? In Great Britain, right? He's got a Humvee, yeah, and it's just full of the waste of the bodies of the kuffar and jihadi like he he heard one hadith saying, "Oh, you can eat a kuffar in a battle, like, and then he becomes jihadi the cannibal, right? You know what I mean? It's a sad story, but I shouldn't be blamed by any community for doing anything, for being a bad person. It's just that's a sad story, a Syrian story, bro.
All right. Can we say that war is a sad story? Is it not? And there's not a lot. Generally, not a lot of good comes out of it. There are a lot of horror stories, mass
Well,
trauma.
but my grandfather, yeah, he came out of war, as it were. He was a Holocaust survivor, right? My other grandfather was in a reserve profession, printed blueprints for like weapons firms in Yorkshire. But they both came through war, their life story, especially, and there's a lot of war babies and stuff, in any scheme of life, be it war or peace, you still got the flowers on the muck pile, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, of course.
You still got the romance story between the Russian girl and the German officer, And I was just watching a Russian film, and the Russian partisan girl, she gets taken in by this German doctor who's a good guy, and they have a baby together. But because of that, the Russian partisan, they shoot her dead as reprisal for being a traitor with the Germans. There's a lot of human stories in war, but it says in the Bible, Chris, that one day when the Messiah comes, the swords, i.e., the aircraft carriers, the howitzers, will be beaten into plowshares. You can make very good farming machinery out of tanks and stuff, just like you can make very good Panzer tanks out of farming machinery by welded steel plates on them,
Roger.
it.
Timmo, let's peel back a bit then. So you served in the British Army, did you not?
I did.
All right. How did that come about? How come you joined? What made you
Well,
join up?
it was my dream as a youth, like when I was a lad. I either wanted to be a fighter pilot or a soldier. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, but when I was a kid, until the series Soldier Soldier with Robson Green and Jerome Flynn came on, and then I thought I want to be in the army. I want to be in they were in the King's Own Fusiliers or something. I wanted to be in some battalion. And in the end, I was in Second Battalion of Royal Green Jackets.
Got you. Timmo, can you do us a favour? Can you just sit back a bit, dude? Just because
Yeah,
even though you're covered up for security purposes, I think people would still like to see you speaking.
there you go.
And did you do any tours then in your time in the army?
I did, Chris. You can look me up at Glasgow 25055208, private or rifleman, Jacobs Wordsworth. When I was in the Green Jackets, I was Rifleman Wordsworth. But I went back for a bit of reservist service, and they changed my name to like a double barrel name, Jacobs Wordsworth. So now, if you look for me, it's Rifleman Jacobs Wordsworth.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was in Bosnia and in Kosovo. I went to Bosnia in '98 with them, and we went to Kosovo in 1999 to 2000, the Millennium Tour they called it, which was yeah, there was a lot of sadness. But
How old were you?
I was 18 when I went to Bosnia.
And I guess you're seeing a lot of death
I was,
and
I was 20 when I
destruction.
went. was 20 when I went to Kosovo. Well, we went after the after the Dayton Accords. A lot of light infantry guys. We had a lot of guys with 2LI who'd been in Paderborn in Germany, in a barracks, Allenbrook Barracks, which is now housing estate. It had been an SS barracks in the war, the infantry caserne. And a lot of 2LI guys had been there during the war in Bosnia, but we were there peacekeeping in Bosnia after the peace had been made. It was a huge landmine threat. And it was some very interesting stories. And in Kosovo, we got there in early September, a couple of months after 5 Airborne Brigade had made the incursion into Kosovo. So we were dealing with a lot of sad stories with the refugees and protecting the Serbs. One of our main jobs was protecting the Serbs from the angry Albanians who they wanted to treat them as if they were SS officers in a concentration camp after the war and do them in, because they were Serbian and we were living in flats with traces of genocide. I opened the cupboard and there's a mattress, and on it was somebody's brains with boot prints, huge boot prints. And someone's brains, man, all dried up and minging. And the boots were in there as well, man. It was a gypsy's flat, man. We stayed in this gypsy's flat. We called it an OP. And we patrolled around the Sunny Hills area. We patrolled around many villages around Pristina. We confiscated a few weapons, but we stopped gangsters from taking people's houses from them. But the first time I was under fire on the two-way range was in Syria, Chris. The first time I ever saw, in Bethlehem as well. I was a tourist in Israel for years, and me and the Japanese tourists, we went to Bethlehem in 2006, and I knew this hairdresser who lived in Bethlehem. I said to the Japanese tourist, God bless her Ramadan, I just got a dry throat. I went with a Japanese tourist into Bethlehem when the Israeli tanks were battering the place. And it was like World War III, man. We came under really close sniper fire there, about half a meter from my pelvis, like a sudden crack, and it hit the concrete right next to my pelvis. I grabbed the Japanese guy. We went under a car, and a Palestinian family let us in. We went to hide in a cave, and then, man, in the end, like a priest took us in for the night. But the first time I ever returned fire, because I'd never fire on the Israeli Defense Forces, right? And anyone does is wrong, man. I'd like to make that clear to Chris, Anyone who ever fires on the Israeli Defense Forces is wrong because of the Holocaust and what happened, Chris, You get me?
Yeah, sort of. I think a lot of people would have a different view, Timmo, but I'm not here to be
Trump.
argumentative. I just want to hear your story.
I'm like Trump. I love everyone and I want peace. I'm not looking for reprisals. I want to be a world peace deal right now. Everyone's my brother. When I was in Kosovo, we had to question all these people through interpreters. And I got this feeling like, I'm part of everyone's family, I get on with them. So, listen, they were Albanians and I love them, man. I love Kosovo as a state, because it wasn't a needless encounter into any Russian imperial sphere. I believe that the Russian royal family is the key to all this, and they were good friends with the British family, the German family, the Norwegian family, the Danish family. They all got together for weddings and stuff, huh? And I think Russia is like, Putin asked Clinton. He said, can Russia be part of NATO? And Clinton like snubbed him and said, no, that's the root of it. Why shouldn't Russia have been let into NATO to like nullify the anti-Russian stance of NATO? That would have been the only way. Like, what Clinton should have jumped at the chance. I think Trump should push for Russia to join NATO, innit? Because Putin he asked Clinton, what, you know what I mean? I reckon that should be part of Trump's. If you could push that message out there to Donald Trump, maybe he hasn't thought of it, but he should like leverage it like a jiu-jitsu fight, man, and he should get both Ukraine and Russia in NATO. Have a proper like peace treaty, so Russia ain't an enemy, and NATO can never be anti-Russian again. Man. What do you reckon, man?
Well, we're not really here to talk about what I reckon, Tim. I think Donald Trump's a businessman. I think that hereby ends my case. I don't ever think you're going to hear Donald Trump talk about the sort of stuff we do on this podcast, which is energy, vibration, frequency, the spiritual battle.
David
and I don't think you're ever gonna.
Do you talk about David Icke?
David's been on my show. Yeah, we had quite a chat. I know his one of his sons as well, Gareth, who's an absolutely lovely gentleman.
What do you think of the? I don't go with his moon theories, bro. He says the moon was like a Dyson sphere with a shell around it. I went off him after that, but
yeah, it's I think the thing with David, he just explores lots of possibilities. I think he's a bit eclectic. I don't think he ever would put all his chips on one square. Some squares, I think he's quite well aware of the dark network.
All right, I'll tell you one thing, bro, right? I won't tell you where or who, but once during my military service, I met a very powerful man, right? And he done this to me, like a salute, man. He done that to me. And he said to me, I won't tell you what he said to me, right? But I believe all that there's a Satanist conspiracy, Chris, you know? And all these aliens and stuff that David Icke talks about, you know? I don't know what he's seen in that, you know? Like, I don't know about if he's on amphetamine or something, right? But all I can tell you is somebody did that to me, man, you know? And he told me I done not to speak about them, you know? So there's something going on, G, yeah? There's something...
Yeah, of course. Well, Satan is the ruler of the world, and it's that's kind of well known. But it's for us to to take up the challenge, isn't it, and not fall prey to the temptation. And what we're seeing with all these wars are people that are living in their lower ego self, that feel materialism is going to make them happy. Part materialism is the money and what they perceive as power that makes them attractive to the opposite sex, which is kind of ironic when you become like a Pol Pot or I'm hesitant to use some modern examples because I don't want to get political, but
you're not talking about the Storm Z convict or the foreigner contracted to the Brunei Syria Ukraine. You know? You're not talking about just the foreigner, the Indian who's who gets suicide bombed by 18 drones. You're talking about the big men, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's the same at the other end of the scale or the rank structure. You know, why do men go to war? Well, men go to war out of ego. I'm not. This is not a criticism.
Okay, but whatever, right? Are you going to stand by that? For the, I was with Ukrainians, right? They're my age and your age, right? And I see people now, it reminds me of them, man. You can't, they're conscripted. You can't say that about the conscript, Chris.
Well, yeah. Good challenge, mate. Absolutely. Of course you can't, especially if they're, mentally unwell or disabled. Is what we've been hearing. It's that wasn't it that Vance character in Donald's cabinet, wasn't he? Didn't he challenge Zelensky on that and said, "When are you going to stop forcing people to the front line?"
Okay, right. Well,
And that's when it all their meeting started to go the way of the pair, wasn't it?
yo, I love Zelensky, right? I got to say that he reminds me of my grandfather. You see, one of my grandfathers was a blueprint designer, a Yorkshire Catholic man, a brilliant man, and the other was a Holocaust survivor, man. And Zelensky reminds me of that.
Yeah, that.
I just love him. I love Zelensky, like, and I wish him all the well in the world. I wish him all the good things in the world.
I think he's got most of them now, mate. He bought them with your money,
No,
your
well,
taxpayers' money, and mine, and everyone else who's listening. Timo, listen.
well, I got paid a little bit out of it. I was on contract with the Ukrainian Marines for 6 months, and they they paid me a good few months of that, man. So I was happy with my end of it. And all the people there, I think they're heroes, in the Ukrainian Marines. Every single one of them, right? So I don't know. Maybe you're talking about some people in what? Like, I don't know. Who you talking about? You're pointing a finger at me, Chris. I joined the army and I was at war out of some egotistical stick up my ass or something.
Well, taking a life, Tim. I mean, something which we both signed up to do. I don't think that goes without any scrutiny. Does it? Does it not?
Okay, what you saying, man? So say what you got. If you got some question, like,
Yeah, I
I
got
don't know,
Timo. I got loads of questions. So let's go back to your army days. Why did you leave the army?
because I wanted to join. Right, my friend Ollie, yeah, Ollie Wads. He infested my mind with tales of the French Foreign Legion, man. Back in Bosnia, we used to sit in the back of the Warrior, and he's telling me about the Foreign Legion, bro. And it became my dream to go. Right? So I signed off. There's even a colour sergeant who used to call me Legionnaire. And I went, I left the British Army. I went to Paris. I went to Aubagne, to Marseille. They gave me a name, Mark Walker. They changed my name. And after 5 weeks, I bailed, innit? I bailed on them. I went to Israel. They paid me 5,000 francs. It was before the Euros. And I got the plane from Charles de Gaulle Airport to Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. And I went to live in a hostel. I went to Momo's hostel on the 28 Ben Yehuda Street, G. I lived there on the roof, bro, smoking the ganja, man. You just gotta wait for a country like Israel and Britain to feed the ganja, man, innit? And then the tourism will be up. There'll be peace in Israel.
So join the French Foreign Legion. That's no mean feat. I mean, that's what mouthful of rocks, isn't it? It's not. It's
I
not.
met, I met him. I met him. Christian Jennings.
Yeah.
He came as a reporter. He came as a reporter to Pristina. Like there is a big stadium that had burnt down, and one of our company, all his rifles got melted and that. And we went there on patrol, and this Christian Jennings, he was there with one of our officers, yeah. And we met him. Didn't discuss his book, Mouthful of Rocks, because there you go, man. He was with the trannies and that, you know. He was in Corsica and that, wasn't it?
Timmo, tell me something then. I think our people with a military connection out there will find this interesting.
Oh.
Why is it almost everybody I chat to that's been in the French Foreign Legion, and I've chatted to quite a few, with the exception of one gentleman who's still serving to this day, and he's very serious at it. Why is it they all seem to go AWOL? We used to get a lot of guys join the Marines that had gone AWOL, that had joined the French Foreign Legion, English blokes or UK guys, I should say, and they'd all go AWOL. It seems like a lot to go through all that training just to sort of go AWOL at the other end. What's the driver behind that?
Well, from the Legion, I signed off to them proper, and they gave me 5,000 francs. But I didn't go AWOL from that Legion. I went AWOL from the Ukrainian Legion for 24 hours, and they kicked me out of there.
Yeah,
from Norman Brigade, I didn't go AWOL.
Yeah, Timmo, I get that. I just was asking you the question: what is it about the French Foreign Legion that is so bad that a lot of people go AWOL? What's that about?
It's not. It's because part of the Beau Geste and the Van Damme. There's a Van Damme film, AWOL. People have got that in their minds, you know. But probably if when they got to Oban, they'd say, "Oh, there's the desert. You can go AWOL if you get across it." Everyone would love it, innit? You know? But the Legion, they're not in North Africa anymore, are they? They're in Djibouti. They're in South America. They're in NATO hotspots. There was a big one called Legionnaire by Simon Murray. Like my friend Ollie, he introduced me to that. Yeah? And he was a British public school boy from Eton, and he joined the Foreign Legion instead of going to Oxford in the city, right? He joined, and he was in the French war against the Algerian jihadis, isn't it? You know, they were freedom fighters in the 60s, isn't it? You know, and he was there with the French when there was an attempted coup d'état. You know, the French paratroopers were when the French president gave up Algeria. Have you heard?
Yeah, wasn't Algeria was one of the last countries to give up colonization, was it not? And it was pretty bloody.
Yeah, well, this public school guy was there. He didn't go AWOL, right? I don't know. I don't remember if he went for a short while and went to prison on it, right? Like in the British Army. No, usually if it's I went back to the UK, you know, played football in the sun with my old pals, and then I went back to Germany, and then they put me in the garrison jail for a week, you know.
Timmo, it's starting to not be able to hear you, dude. I don't know.
Okay, I'll speak up, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah, okay. So you were in the French Foreign Legion.
No, that's it. Just a little. I was only there for 5 weeks, you know, and they're very nice. They give me 5,000 francs for that, and but as I said, the first time I ever called the shots was in Syria. You know?
Oh, are you there? And how did you get out to Syria then? What prompted that?
I flew to Turkey. I got a bus, bro. Yeah.
Cool.
Because basically to fight against the ISIS, the Khawarij. You know, in Islam, they were considered outsiders to Islam. It says like an arrow goes through a pigeon, right? The true faith of Islam has gone through these ISIS, like zoom, like that, you know. So ISIS, they had to be stopped. So I just got on the plane. I hooked up with the Kurdish rebels, and they got me to Syria, you know. And thank God, I did my best, man, as a rifleman, you know. I pray for forgiveness from my Lord God, from Allah. I pray for forgiveness, you know. Just as everybody has to, you know. I pray for punishment for me, for my actions. I pray that punishment only be I get knocked for my wages in heaven one day or something, you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you convert, Timmo?
In my time, I've converted to a lot of religions, you know.
All right.
I'm trans-religious, bro, you know. I believe in God. I believe in the Yazidi. You know who the Yazidis are, don't you? You heard of the massacre of the Yazidis by ISIS in 2014?
Yeah, there was the girl, wasn't it? What's her name? That the English girl.
No, you got Nadia Murad. She was a Yazidi girl. She managed to escape from sex slavedom of ISIS. She spoke at the UN and that, you know? She was
Yeah.
actually a sex slave because these Khawarij, you know, they enacted like evil demonic hadith against them, you know. It's proven by the high Islamic Council, right? That they're using like fraudulent hadiths, right? Like it's true that the Council of Nicaea, you know, some Bible books were prescribed, and some false bits of the Bible might have been put in. It's the same for Islam. They've done things, they twisted, and they got false hadiths, mate. But ISIS were enacted sex slavedom. How can you give that for the true prophecy, man? That's why all British Islamic people should cut me some break, you know. You know what I'm saying? As long
Yeah.
as cleaning up their own mess, man. You know?
How
How's
did
that?
you? How did you
They
get there in the first place? Did you? I heard there was a Facebook page, and you went on the Facebook page, and then they made contact with you, and they gave you the directions to get there and who was going to meet you. Is that how it is?
that was all 10 years, more than 10 years ago. That, you know,
Yeah.
it was the same. It was the same with Ruth. First they got in touch by some social media, and then they got switched to another channel and verified. You know, you have to verify price service, and then get taken from there. You know, get taken on your word as a knight, isn't it?
Yeah.
Proof was big on he said the new knighthood, you know, the Norman Brigade.
We'll
It was
we'll
the new knighthood.
we'll come on to Ukraine, mate, but I want to stay in Syria for the time being because who issues you with your Kalashnikov then?
It was a place that's been blooming airstrike now, Chris.
Mm.
That place where we got issued our Kalashnikov.
Yeah.
I got issued my M16. It's been airstrike long time ago.
Does every foreigner that rocks up there? I know we're talking 10 years ago, but did they all get issued a weapon, or did some of them have to hang on a bit?
We got asked, like they said to us clearly. They said, we need people at the front now. If there's any of you military veterans and you're ready to just come to the front now, we'll give you a weapon and you go to the front now. And then they said, the rest of you, because there's some ideological revolutionaries in that, who've never handled a weapon. They said whoever wants to go to the academy and get weapons training and tactics training and the rest of it, and ideology training, you hang on here a bit. And there's a group of us, including the founder of a very important organization in Ukraine now. We decided all to go to the armory and get tooled up. And so that's the first time I ever had an M16, which that's like our dream, When we were young riflemen, all the material about the special forces soldiers, they were all tooled up with M16s, M203s and that. So I was happy to get the M16, and I was with an ex-US Marine called Jamie Lane. He was with us. He'd been in Fallujah, man. And he showed me a strip and assembled the M16 and that, So.
And how did your first contact come about?
Well, we'd stayed after that place where we got weapons. We stayed a couple of weeks on an an oil refinery place, and then they took us to a road, the front line, like a raised main road, Chris. Yeah, they drove us in these Turkish people. They drove us to this big main road and it got explained to us that there were some other Westerners there. Yeah, and they said they're going to take this town, Tel Hamis, right? And so we're going to take these villages. Hopefully, in the next few days, we're going to take Tel Hamis. Right? Well, after Tel Hamis fell, me and 3 others, we got left behind by the whole mob. Right? And we ended up at another front line. Well, here it was close, In Tel Hamis, they all ran away mostly, right? But here they were fighting back, Chris, yeah? And it was me, a Dutchman, right? And Jamie weren't with us anymore. Because Jamie had all these GPS devices, and they took Jamie off, one driver. And I was with Jamie's American friend and the Dutch guy. And we went off to this front line, and I crawled under fire to a berm, and I returned fire, Chris, with my M16. In the end, I was walking behind a little Panzer, these self-made APCs, they call them Panzers, right? And I was about, 30, 40 meters behind this little Panzer called the Mouse. It was made from a little agricultural machine with steel plates, and a high-powered sniper rifle went real close to my head. That was the first time I'd ever, in a war, apart from in Israel, Palestine, come under close fire, and they were raining fire down. So in the end, I had to crawl off the road to this berm. But in the end, I managed to return fire with my M16 a lot that day, and I had a negligent discharge as well, Chris. I had a negligent discharge.
That's not good.
But no, but it just shows the heat of the moment, And these do happen.
Yeah, they do. I've seen a few. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the Westerners, God forbid, he was a big lad from Alaska. Someone shot him with an ND. They were cleaning their weapons, and someone shot him with a PKM, man. That's a fucking 760 long, man. So, for any soldiers out there, I was always thankful to the Royal Green Jackets and to the British Army for making us drill so much on our rifles. It's not for nothing. All that weapon safety in the sand bays and that. All the declarations. I have no live rounds or black rounds in my possession, so it's not for nothing. It does save lives. So
yeah, and having an ND just shows you that it still can go wrong.
It can always go wrong, man, but it was never as powerful as the Russians, right? What they put us through, Chris, like ISIS, Daesh, yeah? they put a few rounds from tank as indirect fire or a howitzer at us, and it wasn't nice, right? But not, they never airstriked us, you know what I mean? We were with a coalition that was airstriking them. In Ukraine, we were like ISIS, we were tunneling underground, just like ISIS were outside Al-Hol, Al-Hol didn't, where Shahid Kamal, have you heard of Shahid Kamal?
Now, can we just, Tim, can we
Go,
just peel
yeah,
back
go on, but there's a Royal Marine, right? You've got to know about him, right? For the story. I was with him the day he died. God bless him. He was ex-Royal Marine called Costa Skirfield.
Yeah.
And his Kurdish name was Kamal. So if you could check him out, Shahid means martyr.
I saw a documentary about is it Costa? It was Costa, wasn't it?
Costa Skirfield. Konstantinos Eric Skirfield.
Yeah, it was originally Greek, obviously, and
yeah. I met his parents, man. They're lovely, man. Lovely people. And he's a big hero, man. He said, I know I'm gonna die. He was loading ammunition into the top of the BMP, into that. It's like either a 21 or a 23 millimeter cannon, Dushka sort of. He was just loading it in, man, and he was loading a link into the box, and the rounds were flying by him, man. They were flying all around him, man. You know what I mean? He could have fucking legged it, man. He could have shot himself in the fucking hand and fucking run off, man. But he didn't, man. I mean, it's serious, man. I've got to tell you, there was times in Ukraine, man. I was bloody Googling, mate, which part of the body is best to shoot myself in, man. That's a serious shit, brother. That's a serious aerial bombardments they were putting us through. That's like some Lord of the Rings stuff. Like my Ukrainian commander, Zima, it means winter in Russian. He said we were like dwarves, innit, digging, and it's true. I told him I'm like Gollum. I've become like Gollum because it was evil, mate. Like there's no need to put like people through mud airstrikes like that, mate. I mean, Trump's got a point, mate. Give it all a break, There's no reason to be putting both the citizens through the airstrikes. It's serious, mate. It makes people piss themselves. You know what I mean? No, we were airstriked in Kiev, mate. I was in Kiev railway station, and there was air alarm. There was bombs on the other side of Kiev, and I decided I'll go down in the tunnel with the people. And there's about 2,000 people down there. Suddenly, bosh, mate. Whoa, apocalyptic explosion. Glass flew down into the fucking tunnel. I thought the concrete beams, the Soviet-built beams were going to give way. It was apocalyptic. Well, they airstriked like a gymnasium of railway workers about 100 or something meters up from the train station. There's no need to terrorize civilians like that. The Soviet Union,
do you know?
They had good intentions in some ways. I don't know what the Grand Soviet would say about airstriking Kiev, which is heroistic good, right? It's a heroic city, like they say. Leningrad, St. Petersburg, Geroi, Moskva, Geroi, Gordon, Uman, Geroi, Gordon, because the whole city, like Malta, King George had to give the whole island of Malta a medal because the whole place was fighting. And these cities in Ukraine and Russia, when the Germans were having to be pushed back, or the whole population, man, you know what it's like, innit? They were cannibals in Leningrad, mate. They had gangsters who had fucking cannibal warehouses, bro, you know? You want to point a finger, bro, you know? It's evil, mate. War is the devil, man, you know? But one day the Messiah is going to come, innit? And the swords will be beaten into plowshares, Chris. That's my strong message. That one day the Messiah will come. And it's only prayer that's got me through since joining the army, you know, when I was 18. I only started praying really when I was in Jerusalem. After, when I went to live in Israel, I lived in Jerusalem. And there I had, they call it the Jerusalem syndrome, you know? Have you heard of that? The people
No.
who live in Jerusalem, they catch on about the Messiah. From then on, I've been praying non-stop, thank the Lord. And it's brought me right to you, Chris. It's brought me right to you.
Yeah. I've been in Israel and Palestine a couple of times.
Lovely falafel, mate.
Yeah. Yeah. So the old bomb in Kiev, the thing is, Tim, I'm only saying this to play devil's advocate, but we don't know who was behind that bombing, do we? If you think the people that stand the most to gain from it are the people that want to sustain the war, and
I'm with you, Chris. I'm with you. You've got a hypothesis there.
you know, and who funds Zelensky? Well, that's Kolomoisky. He's the third richest man in Ukraine, billionaire oligarch.
As I said, right, somewhere along this fairy tale, since when I joined the army, I met General Sir Michael Jackson. I met SAS officers. I met all of them, mate. But one of them, and not English either, not an Englishman, he done that to me, mate. You know, and it's across borders, Chris. Yeah, the Quran says they're making mischief on our planet, you know. They are making wars for mischief because you've got the five-pointed star, the pentagram. Both the communist flag and the American flag have this five-pointed star, right? In it, it's called the American flag has so many stars on it, doesn't it? The EU flag has all these five-pointed stars on it.
Yeah.
All the countries with this, and if you put the five-pointed star in a circle, it's called a pentacle. It's for their Satanist ceremonies. Like North Korea, look at that. It's a five-pointed star in a circle, yeah? If you turn it upside down, it's a satanic pentacle. If you look at the Wagner flag, the Wagner Brigade, yeah? It's a five-pointed star in a circle. No, there's Satanism on both sides. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right. But I was a professional soldier.
Can we get your video back, Timmo?
All right. Yeah.
So I got to ask you then, mate. You seem to have, you seem to be getting the answers that it's all a, satanic game. Why do you love playing it so much?
I was a career soldier, right? I joined up to help people, right? And I have helped people on the balance of it, Chris. I've helped people, and I'll be happy until the day I die that I managed to help that people.
Do you think you helped the people that you shot?
Right, if there's an ISIS village, right, under freaking fire, yeah, you're not gonna stand up as if you might be a combatant, cabbying off, are you, mate? So if I shot someone in the ISIS village with terrorists, right? For real, man, he was on it, man. You know, they were singing songs and taking the hardest drugs that the caliphate could get them. All the pictures of dead jihadis had smiles on their faces, Chris. You look through some ISIS sort of, all the websites got shut down, right, of ISIS, but every fucking picture of their shaheed, they were sort of smiling, like, especially the suicide bombers. I saw lots that weren't smiling, but if this person is in the ISIS terrorist held village, Chris, right, and I shot him, right, Well, I'm not saying I was helping him on his way to Jannah, but some scholars might say that, you know. But
Sorry, Tim.
every, every
I'm not. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. That was probably sounded a bit rude. That's not what I meant. What I meant is, there's all this justification for killing, isn't there? All and I
yeah,
think
but
any you
I was
speak
never
to.
slaughtering people. I was like in Ukraine, even in the Kursk, right? They say there's video documentary evidence. You've got Patrick Lancaster, right? He's been in a basement full of civilians, right? I mean, I was never fucking cabbying off at civilians like in some basement, right? Or like some SS reprisal squad, or shooting some people in the back. You know, I had the chance, you know, I had the chance, man. You know, and afterwards, you know, I thought, oh, I could have shot them, man. You know, but I was a gentleman. You know, you don't
Right,
be
so,
maybe.
Timo, let's fast forward then a bit to Ukraine.
Uh,
Do you, I mean, I know you're a soldier on the ground. You're the politics maybe. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to make that sacrifice to go over there and physically join up and put your life, not only put your life on the line, but also be willing to take life. I guess you must have had your unique handle on what was going on there. But to the outside world, it looked like the people in the Donbass were kind of more affiliated with Russia than they were with Ukraine, but they just got on with their lives. But as a result, they were subjected to this shelling from Kiev,
uh,
and I'm not here to I'm not trying to
I hear you.
justify anything, but then you've got Putin there that's like, could you please stop shelling these people, or
I hear you.
we're gonna have to take action because they
Yeah.
they affiliate more with being Russian than they do Ukraine. Sorry about that. It's just the truth. And
I
then
thought a lot about this,
um,
Chris.
and
Right? If
but
I could just interject, right?
yeah,
Is special military operation, right? If it had been confined to the Donbass, right, and maybe as it is, it has like half of Kherson province up to the river, right? I was on the other side of the river. If he'd done it just in these bits that he has now, then the world might have gone down a bit easier. But he got ahead of himself in a like Barbarossa. You know, he thought he could take the whole country and send a few Chechnyan commandos, some paratroopers, VDV into Kiev. He got rebuffed by the javelins. You know, maybe you say he knew that would happen. Maybe you say, oh, at what level can the satanic plan be, Chris? Right? I mean, is there a satanic plan for in 20 years' time when we're really old? The front line will be in Berlin. Is that what Satanist grand wizard fucking scumbags have fucking said, you know, at some meeting on an island, you know? Is that who
well,
knows?
basically, yeah, because they practice something called energy harvesting, and they love the dark energy that comes from war, and they call it looshing. The people that are killed in the war, these dark practitioners, let's call them, they believe that they get the energy from these kind of gullible young men who are, very naive, often brainwashed, extremely idealistic. They go off with their Che Guevara tattoos to lay down their life for a cause they don't really understand. And
Okay,
this
Chris,
lot, they love it, mate. They love it. That's what they thrive on.
I think they more thrived on what Jihadi John and the ISIS Beatles were doing, Chris. Do you get me?
Mate,
They
that
were
was all
open.
weird. That all looked like
Yeah,
it was
that,
staged
that,
in Hollywood, and it was
that's like
vile.
that's like proper satanic crimes. Right? All we were doing was like infantry assaults, light infantry assaults with Humvees on heavily armed villages. Right? They were Jack the Ripper. They were like an army of 30 to 60,000 Jack the Rippers, every one of them. You know, they had friends in the Khilafah, done Jack the Ripper type crimes against the Yazidi girls who were captured, right? Honestly, right? I mean, it's like Churchill's best against the concentration camp commandos. You know what I mean? It's that good to bad ratio. Like we were like the best. I thought we were like Green Berets, because it was just me with the Kurds for a long time before more Westerners came after the Danish Haval, after he left. I thought this is like special operation unit or something. I'm in, right? And that's like Churchill's commandos. ISIS, they were like the SS camp guards who used to like make fun of the Jews, the gypsies, the disabled, Freemasons. They used to taunt them and murder them in concentration camps. That's what ISIS were doing. We liberated a school and they had a sex prison in there, Chris, right? It was clear there was knickers all around on the floor, Chris. And they'd been chaining women up, and they'd been having their evil, wicked way with them, Chris. They were like Jack the Ripper to a man. We were like knights, man. You know what I'm saying? We were like crusaders. I mean, Salahuddin was Kurdish, mate, but the Kurdish also fought against some real wicked ISIS types, They mixed in false hadiths in with true Islam, yeah? You get me, bro?
Yeah, I do. It gets a bit confusing. There's a massive discourse at the moment out there on the kind of, internet, tinternet, as they call it. It's huge on Twitter. Let's just say there's a lot of people that are calling out certain parts of history now, basically saying it's impossible, it could have happened like that. And only reason I'm saying it, Timmo, is I know there'll be people watching that would want me to flag that up.
Okay, but
I think we got to be careful of always like bad mouthing the Germans, because we only know the Hollywood story of the history.
Okay, maybe in your work, bro, right? The soldier is caught up in this. The Satanists, they understand, because they were around in the reptilian time that David Icke talks about, yeah? They did it to the reptilians, They made the reptilian civilization self-genocide, through nuclear wars and that, And now it's like only the ghosts of the reptilians is around, and David Icke can see them and stuff, yeah? But the people in control, they know that if they stimulate war crimes on any one of the sides of the war, then that drags in another side to the war. And then that side will probably make war crimes itself. And then you've got what's called a satanic sacrifice, Chris, isn't it? Like the Satanists, like that, they do it to fucking low-hanging fruit. They do it to fucking tens of thousands and millions of people in wars. War is a satanic sacrifice, Chris. But what are you going to do? What are you going to tell the Royal Marine Commando, Chris, or the Parachute Regiment soldier, or the Rifles Regiment soldier? Are you gonna tell them all now, if they're watching, like, you're caught up in the devil's game, sign off from the army, or sign off from the Marines, or sign off from the paras? I mean, in my book, I always had, like they said to the SS soldiers, at the end of the day, lads, they said, it was you SS soldier who had a final say. You could have marched out of the concentration camp and gone to the Reichsfuhrer SS and said, I demand to fight for Germany on the front lines as an honourable soldier. Yeah? You could have said, I'm not having nothing to do with this concentration camp on my honour as an SS soldier, right? They could have done that, innit? But they didn't, Chris. And I knew, right? After everything I've done, I know I've helped people. And I'd say to any soldier, even if you believe what you believe, Chris, that any war in this day and age or in history is probably just a devil satanic setup. What am I, a soldier, doing in it? I'm just saying then, lads. A, you have the chance to decide who to fire on. And B, you have the chance to get the fuck out of that platoon or whatever if you think that there's evil what's happening there, you have a chance. Yeah, you have a chance to shape your own destiny in some way. I mean, in Ukraine, once we got out of the vehicle position, there was nowhere to run, because the drones, they would take a man out. Like in Syria, Chris, like I ran away in it from my first big fucking armored attack of the village. After we came out of the village, right, I was on my heels, mate. But in Ukraine, there was no way to do that. Once a man gets, or a woman, once you get in that vehicle and go through the zone of drone control, there's no way back. People are in those positions until an evacuation vehicle comes. So my Indian friend, right, he's one of the bravest men I ever met. He was in the Ukrainian Marines. He was in a building that got attacked by 18 kamikaze suicide drones at once. There was a flame in that building 4 times higher than the building. If he hadn't been evacuated by the vehicle, there was no way he could have been on his heels, like some scaffolder, like running away from some malarkey, going to the pub. There's nowhere to run in a modern day war. That's something that's changed. The drones. When I was in Syria, we saw Turkish phantoms. We were close to the airstrikes of the Allies, but there was no drones. The first time I saw a kamikaze drone strike in Ukraine, I was freaking horrified. Set off a chain reaction. I thought it was a friendly drone coming down, and then it just went down and exploded with the power of an RPG warhead. It exploded. I was laying on the ground. There was another drone above me, and it destroyed a car. It destroyed a vehicle because they want high value targets. And I ran for my life. It's crazy. Like in Afghanistan, Paris said, "Oh, what? The ground used to be a parachute regiment soldier's friend. Now it's turned against us. We're the landmines in Afghan, isn't it?" And now it's got another step worse.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Some of these videos that are floating around where these drones literally just chase people down, and they know they're being chased down. It's a different battlefield. Anyone joining up these days, when you and I joined up, it was like playing bloody toy soldiers, wasn't it? Running around in the bushes with your face blacked out.
On exercise, it was, yeah, on exercise.
It's different now, though. I mean, sorry, I should explain.
They still
what I mean is, Tim,
exercise.
Timmo, let me talk, dude, or we just talk over each other. I'm just saying for young people listening, my sort of cohort were the lads that could black your face out, run around in the forest without being seen, and do sneaky beaky stuff, on your so-called enemy. And the Falklands War kind of exemplified that method of fighting. Now it's not like that. Now, before you've even applied to join up, the enemy know everything about you. They've got AI. They know what colour underpants you just bought. They see you step off the train in Kiev or whatever war zone where you're going to go and sign up. They're already on you. The second you get issued a weapon and you step onto the battlefield, they're just like that. Boom, push a button, and it's good night Vienna. There isn't any scrapping. There isn't any, daring do. And
a lot of it depends on just normal digital security, personal phone security. Like put your Facebook account on not public, only your friends can see. Like you've got this. There's a website called Tracker Nazi Merc. Yeah.
Can't hear you again, Timmo.
Have you seen the website Tracker Nazi Merc?
No, I try to do more spiritual things and spend spend my time on those kind of sites, Timmo. But I guess
Well, a lot of these people who are on there, you know, they're identified as fighting against Russia, or they're fighting against Russia for Ukraine. Like, a lot of them, they allowed it to be known because they posted on the public settings on Facebook or something. A lot of it, and then they get pinged by Russian various intelligence, satellite intelligence, and a lot of it, you know. When we went to Kurdistan, they told us that.
Timmo, can you stop smacking the top, dude? Because it's just all coming through on the headphones.
All right, sorry, yeah. Like in that film Four Lions, remember, he says, "Oh, eat the SIM card," you know. Basically, man. I mean, not very effective, maybe, but person throws his SIM card away, man. He hasn't got a chip in his hand yet, innit? Like with the David Icke, he talks about one day when you got a chip in your hand, you won't be able to go dark, you know. All the guys they just are going dark, innit? No one finding them, man.
Yeah.
Unless, you know, if
Okay,
he had
so Timmo, look, I just sort of want to draw this to a close because I've taken up your valuable time now for the last, gosh, it's like almost 2 hours.
okay,
What does this cost you?
nothing.
This lifestyle. I mean,
Oh.
what if you don't want to talk about it? I completely understand, but you know, our mental health is everything. And what you've been through sounds like sounds like you've been through a war, and you've been through at least three of them from what you said.
Well, Robert Graves, yeah? You know Robert Graves, he was a World War One officer, wasn't
Okay.
he? He said that the war made him a coward. Like he was like heroically like he was a psycho, you know, he was off. They called him mad this and mad that, you know. But after the war, he said, what I've seen. Yeah, a lot of people they just shoot themselves, isn't it? They dress in their French Foreign Legion #2 dress. They take their pistol out in a hotel room. They shoot themselves in the head because they've seen death, man. You know, and they know what can happen and what. Of course, you know the suspense and the horror of knowing that everybody, you know, the encounter with the human slaughterhouse.
Yeah, it's
Of course, Chris, it's a mental fuck up. Yeah, it really is. But when a person has prayer, like a lot of people in the Bible, they're fucked over in it. Like Job, for example, right? Everything got took from him, everything got burnt from him, but he just kept on praying, and then God gave him better 7 times over. Chris. I believe in God, and God. That's the key to everything.
yeah.
Don't,
Seven symbolic in scripture. It stands for the seven chakras and completeness. Yeah. Timmo, what's next for you then, brother? Come on, what? Are you going to settle down and just get a job, or you got plans to go adventuring again? Perhaps I shouldn't call it adventuring, but maybe it sounds like I'm glamorizing it. But when I was young, it was all a bit of an adventure, to be honest.
gallivanting. That's what Shahid Kamal's dad called it. Gallivanting. You know, this
Yeah.
is our.
So what are you going to get up to?
I'm a general now, Chris. But when I was with the Kurds, right, if they just start saying someone's a general, he can become a general. You know what I mean? Some of the people, like there was General Mateen. Me and him, we went and took Joe Ackerman, the Yorkshireman, from out of the grass. Right? Now he was like a company commander, right? Really, doing a major's job, right? But they called him General, like General Mateen, you know. And in the end, everyone knew him as General Mateen, you know. And in the end, they started saying like Tim General, Tim General. And after that, Well, I think I'd like to be a general stroke Alistair Campbell, and I'd like to work with Keir Starmer. I'd just like to have a few chats with Keir every week. We can sort everything out, I think. Because the PKK, right, and the YPG, right, they are sort of communists, right? And I do think that Labour, Chris, they should give everyone a job, right? Like, people say it's strayed from the socialist principles of the 1920s and 30s. Well, yeah, the government needs to take over a certain amount of industries. So anyone who's out of work, they can automatically say at the job centre, you can work at the works here. Are you ready to go on Monday? You know, and they're building some huge bomb shelters or something, or planting fruit trees or something. They need to make laws to plant fruit trees on the farmers' fields, right? Because the animals love fruit anyway. So the future generations will have lovely fruit to eat. They need to build people bomb shelters because the Russians have got the Poseidon undersea nuclear torpedo. Have you heard of that, Chris? Have you heard of the Poseidon?
No, can't say I have.
Right, so Russia and North Korea have undersea nuclear bombs, right? They're in torpedoes that creep towards the coastline and then they accelerate and explode and they cause a half-kilometre high tidal wave. And it's been proven by the Russian scientists that it would cover the whole of the British Isles with a 500-metre high tidal wave. You not heard of that? The tidal wave bomb.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm a bit dubious about all this, the nuclear weapon stuff, Tim. Simply for the fact that we were so gullible growing up, we believed anything we saw on TV, and we didn't have the, we didn't have the information to go against it. Then when you found out that half the missiles in these, like, for example, these North Korean parades that you see, they're actually made of wood. Then when people come out and say these videos that they show you, the Americans testing the A-bomb, actually, they're just huge fire bombs. But regardless of all that, I don't live in fear.
What about Hiroshima and Nagasaki? You believe in that, don't you?
Mate, I've been there. I certainly saw evidence of a huge fire. That is without doubt. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy dickhead or something. I'm just saying we've got as a humanity, we seriously got to start questioning stuff, because these psychopaths, these energy harvesters, you call them the Satanists, right? They're hot on all this stuff. They know how to push people's buttons. And
what do you mean, Chris? I mean, when you talk about energy harvesting, are you talking about stem cells? Like
no. I mean, when they watch, so
you're
World
talking
War
about
what?
energy vampires, like reptilians or something.
No, not like in the physical sense.
It's just like they
You,
have to do their mystery plays, right? They have to have their great sacrifice, and then they have a talk about it in some ceremony. I don't know. They drink out at some Viking-style hall, like dress up as Conan the Barbarian and all witches or something.
I wouldn't get into all that shit, mate. I'm just saying when when you get to adulthood, and some people don't have a choice because they're born into this stuff, but you can decide you're going to walk the righteous path, or at least try to, or you're going to go the dark path. Some people have had such a bad lot in life, or they're literally born psychopath, or they have a genetic imbalance in their body that means they can never appreciate empathy. So going down the lovey-dovey route it's never going to work for them. They can hold a baby and cuddle it, right? And make you think that they love that, but they don't. They're just copying, they're emulating what they've seen you do. At the same time, they're constantly scheming for power, wealth, control, money. And they decided, look, we ain't going to go with the old guy with a wispy white hair and a beard who sits on a cloud knocking up stone.
What about Ronnie?
Hang on a sec. Hang on, mate. Don't ask me a question and then interrupt me when I'm giving you the answer. They don't believe in a wispy white-haired guy who sits on a cloud knocking up stone tablets and virgins. They believe in the other one, like the old, you know, the false idol kind of biblical thing, right? They go into the dark side, and what they get from it is all the material wealth they ever want. But what they lose from it is, you know, the ability to ever you know, make a true connection with the divine, and understand what love is. And part of their process is they energy harvest. They get a kick out of watching thousands, hundreds of thousands of young men go off to the trenches and get slaughtered. And they mark the occasion with numerology, which is numbers. Hence why the armistice is 11-11-11. That's symbolic to them. But most, you know, unless you've studied the occult, you're never going to know this, are you? You're going to think it's some, you know, some great war for the greater good, and it's really helped mankind to step forward. But then when you realise they keep coming around these wars, they haven't really achieved a lot, have they? And I think people just got to wise up to it a bit more. Stop being so gullible.
They become priests, Chris. Basically, you're saying what priests used to say in some way. You are. I mean, if you're talking about Babylon, isn't it? If you got Rastafarian priests, they say, yo, you got Babylon, isn't it? And then you got Judah, the Lion of Judah.
Well, Babylon, when the Tower of Babel, they believed if they could build themselves up mighty enough, they would become God.
Yeah, but it was the Lord, isn't it? The key for me is, right, and I think, is I do believe in the Lord, in that Lord of Zion who destroyed the Tower of Babel. Like, you talk about plots or whoever, but I think anyone, even if he's totally never heard of these schemers that you're on about, or if he was born one of them and he don't want to, or if he's forgotten or whoever, right? But if that person prays to God, he can go to heaven. You know, all these characters you're talking of, if you look at the New Testament, you could probably find its equal, yeah? And then look at the way that Jesus Christ interacted with it, yeah? Or Rabbi Nachman, or the prophets, false prophets, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Look at his life with his cohort, yeah? And you'll find the answers, Chris. You find the answers, and just believe them. Put your point of prayer. St. Paul said, pray through everything that's going. If you're queuing for bread, you have to pray silently inside your head, or else the devil comes to people, it says, you know, instead. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of bad out there, Chris. But
prayer has been misconstrued, though, Timmo. Prayer doesn't mean what people think it means, like praying for a new mountain bike for Christmas. Prayer means meditation.
The Jews, they put it in like categories. Like, they say, I'll spend 10 minutes. They call it hitbodidut, like being alone with God. They say, I'll ask for 10 minutes of asking him for the silly things that I want or whatever. I'll just ask him anyway. Then for 20 minutes, I'll pray for my family. And then for 20 minutes, I'll pray. You know, a lot of these Islamic scholars as well, for them, prayer is like a fitness schedule. You know, there's websites now. There's prayer websites. Mark Wahlberg is fronting one of them. You know,
yeah.
Prayers. Once a person gets into it, God will lead you, and prayer will be like a new universe that will continue after this life into heaven. Into heaven.
Hey, certainly sounds like you've been looking for some answers, mate, doesn't it?
I found them, mate.
Good.
Because the truth is, I'm going to die, and you're going to die. And being a combat veteran, it's very, very scary, because how might I die? Like the characters in the Bible and the holy saints, you know, and the people in the Holocaust, they died horrible. You know, it's not nice. I figured that out. I was sat outside a scaffolding job, bro, 4 a.m. in the morning, and it rushed up to me, my own death, man. Because that building was full of families, Windrush families and that. And now the building's gone, they replaced it. And brother, you know, the Lord's Spirit came into me. I realized my own mortality and clarity. And I came to a crossroads, and I realized the only way forward is to pray harder. You know, for anyone. They can
Mate, if
just go.
you're friends with Jesus, shouldn't you be talking about eternal life?
That's what I'm talking about. Heaven, Chris.
Yeah, we have eternal life, mate. This is just,
Yeah.
these individual personalities. It's just the universe experiencing itself subjectively, isn't it? And there is nothing to fear about death because you can't die. There's one universe, and that's what we are.
Yeah.
We are a part of.
The only thing to be afraid of is how someone's going to die. That's why some people run away from foxholes. People run in the First World War. People ran away with their feet missing. They were so high on adrenaline. They ran away from the shelling of the Germans or the English at the Somme. Men were seen running with no feet, in the mud, Chris. You see,
Yeah.
I know your podcast is a lot of people who are considering joining the armed forces watching your podcast.
I hope not.
No,
Well, you can't stop people joining up, can you? You can just, as an old sweat who's been there, you can advise people. But on the other hand, it's a difficult one for young people, Timmo, because I've worked in factories, I've worked for idiots, and I've also been in the forces, and I know which one was more exciting, at least in the short term, and a wealth of experience to be gained. It's just that I tell everyone, if you're set on joining the Marines, I'm never going to talk you out of it. Why would I? It was an amazing experience, but please don't think you're doing it on behalf of freedom and democracy, because you might be suffering a bit of delusion there, sunshine. Timmo, listen, let's we can come back and do a part 2 to this.
I haven't really told you anything, Chris. You've taken us to some wonderful spiritual generalizations about the motivation between people joining up, and we haven't really gone through a chronological order of my service or anything.
Mate, I think we was all over the shop there a bit, weren't we? Why don't let's get some feedback from our wonderful friends out there. Friends, on that note, I won't tolerate people being rude. Life's too short for it. Deliver your comment if you wish to comment on the podcast, but deliver it with love. And if you don't feel you can do that, you don't need to comment, do you? Because it's we're all on this planet together. We're all trying to work it out, and we're all living our different journeys. So let's just be kind to each other. And Timmo, we can get you back on if you're up for that, bud.
If you like, it's just been maybe the first chat,
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say, I do have a message for the world, and it's with regards to smoking.
Okay.
A lot of people lose their teeth, like Pete Doherty. Yeah, I met him when he was at court. I shook his hand at Southend Magistrates Court. They said that Kate Moss bought him a new set of teeth because of his crack smoking ruined his teeth, right? Also, smoking fags, it ruins people's teeth, right?
Speak up, mate.
I can fill my mouth with water and smoke through the water. You know what I mean? So it protects the teeth like this.
That's a new one on me. Is that called a mouth bong?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
There you go. My misspent youth was...
when everyone's smoking like that in coffee shops in the UK, remember I'm the one and you're the one who made up the word mouth bong, because everyone will have their pint of mineral water and they'll protect their teeth from smoking all the ganja.
I'll be quite happy if I'm not remembered for coming up with a mouth bomb. Mouth bomb, bong. I just want to be known for the double punch. I'm
I'm
going to. I'm
pretty
going to.
sure Van Damme got that before you, Chris.
Timmo, let's chat soon, dude. Friends, if you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Tim will stay on the line. I'm just going to play us out. Much love, everyone. Go steady and peace.
Cause I've been living life right like I